Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of CJ's Corner, where we hopefully learn how to craft stories that will captivate, engage, and inspire your audience. Not only inspire, but influence. That's right, influence. A little bit more important today. For those of you who haven't met me, I'm CJ Powers. I'm a creative who has been telling stories for a long time. And today we're going to take a look at a new story structure that was developed by Pixar. It was re-engineered or recrafted by a gentleman who has a book out. Let me see if I can bring up his book here. There we go. The Best Story Wins by Matthew Lunn. Matthew worked, I believe, for Pixar for about 20 years. He really knows his stuff. He's worked on major shows like Finding Nemo, Toy Story 2, and so on. So he definitely knows the structure and how that works. And at this point, let's get the show started. Okay, so here is the structure of what we're going to talk about, but don't let it freak you out. Look at how big this thing is. Okay, it's really not. We're going to break it down into 3 sections today. We've talked about the beginning, the middle, and the end in the past, so we're going to break it into those 3 segments, or if you prefer talking about it from the standpoint of Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, that's fine too. But today we're going to look at it piece by piece as far as how to develop that story from a business perspective. So let's get started. The first segment, let's break it down really quick here. Okay, here's the first of the 3 segments. This is in the beginning part. In the beginning, you're just getting the story started. You're building a foundation. You need to be able to kind of put your exposition into the story, your background information, the setup information. For business, many times that means we're going to put into it what I'll call the customer problem. How's that sound? Or the typical struggles that they face. Now, at the same time, you also need to talk about your business from the standpoint of kind of what is normal. What's that normal life look like for your business prior to coming up with this great solution that is going to, of course, help them solve their problem. But in the beginning, we can do this just by saying, once upon a time, there was a company by the name of such and such. And the idea is just to kind of introduce your company. Matthew has in his book a couple examples. So let me give you an example from the Walt Disney Company. Once upon a time in 1901, a boy named Walter Elias Disney was born the 4th child of a poor family living in Chicago, Illinois, that believed in hard work and tough discipline. Okay, that's simple. You basically just kind of introduce how the structure was set up, and then you move on to the next one. And the next one is, and every day something happens, right? So you got to give a little bit of information as far as what that everyday life looked like. Okay, again, in his book, he says, and every day after Walt delivered newspapers, completed his schoolwork, and finished his chores, he enjoyed drawing cartoons. You see where this is going, right? So you're being introduced to the main person, the founder, and how his life looked just like yours and mine, except for he liked drawing cartoons. That was the uniqueness of him. Now we then go to Until One Day, and here's what he wrote down for a sample about that. Until one day, a school friend introduced him to the world of vaudeville and motion pictures, and it changed his life. Well, it certainly did. So at this point, we are in the place where we have to hint at or state something for a business that gives you the reason to launch forward. We call it the inciting incident that gets the story going. Some people will call it the first turning point where, okay, this was the normal life. Now we're going to turn into a life that is totally different. Whichever way you want to call it, the key is that this is the key point of your business story, that you launch the people in a new direction. Okay, so that's the first section. That's the beginning of the story. It can be anywhere from 3 sentences to get through each of these 3 points to 3 paragraphs. It depends on what you're doing, how you're setting it up, but it's something that you definitely want to give consideration to. Okay, next we have the middle. Okay, now I know you see a pattern already, don't you? And because of that, complications. And because of that, complications. And because of that, complications. And because of that. You get the idea. Within story, you not only have to have complications, or if you don't want to do it from a complication standpoint, you can have consequences, which is a form of complication now, isn't it? So you want to do a stair-step case thing where you just keep on going up and up and up and intensify the complications, the problems, the things that have to be overcome, anything like that, to show that this normal person that started this unique company was trying to get it moving in a certain direction, and they had to overcome these different things one after another, and the person has to continue listening to the story or reading the story to be satisfied, because they have to know how it ends. So let's give you an example, again, using the Walt Disney Company from Matthew Lund's book. And because of that, while still in high school, Walt enrolled in Saturday drawing classes at the Kansas City Art Institute and correspondence course in cartooning. So we know that he loved cartooning. He decides, okay, I'm going to develop myself in this area. And he decides to move forward with cartooning. And because of that, he pursued a career as a cartoonist, which led him to directing a number of animated cartoon shorts, which were unfortunately stolen from him because of his naivete about the world of business and copyrights. And that did indeed happen. Waldo the Rabbit was Walt's first main character and stolen out from underneath him. And because of that, he joined forces with his savvy brother Roy, and together they were able to protect and keep creative control of all the characters and stories created at the Walt Disney Company. So now we finally are like, okay, this is good. They're finally getting a handle on it. Where did they go from there? See, you always want to have the audience constantly thinking or asking questions of, what then? What then? And that's why we always rough this up by saying, and because of that, and because of that. Now keep in mind, when you actually write your business document, you're not going to write the words, and because of that. You can, but you can just use that as an outline to prompt you to write the next best piece of information. That's the key with this whole structure. When we're talking about story spine, we're talking about an outline format to get the content out and to get you thinking in the right direction. Once you're there, that's when you have to take a closer look at how to clean it up and make it work for your business. Okay, so that takes care of the beginning and the middle. Now let's shift over to the end. And this structure, pretty straightforward. Once we've gotten through the overcoming and the overcoming and the overcoming, now you have this one last final push, which becomes the climax, followed, or in the push is a crisis that lands in a climax, and then you get to the resolution, which is the final solution for your business, so the people are like, I get it. I get it. So here's what Matthew wrote in his book as a sample. Until finally, he created Mickey Mouse, which became wildly successful, the first sound cartoon Steamboat Willie, and the first animated feature film ever, Snow White, in 1937. And yes, we know that Snow White won all kinds of Oscars. It won at the box office big time with a huge paycheck that took decades before it was ever surpassed, if you account for inflation. And then he resolves it in this fashion, using the words, "And since that day," again, this is an outline that you're using to get yourself structured, "and since that day, the Walt Disney Company has become one of the most recognized and loved brands throughout the world, creating animated and live-action films and theme parks that entertain and delight audiences of all ages." So there you have the structure for the businesses, and this allows you to tell whatever story you need to tell. In the beginning structure, let me go back to the overview of the structure. In the beginning, first few things, you're setting the table, so to speak. You're saying, this is what the normal life looked like. This is the situation of our founder and what is going on with our founder. And here are the complications then that had to be overcome, one after another after another. Now, depending on how long of a piece you're doing, you can add in lots and lots of complications. But typically for an introductory type thing, 3 complications is sufficient. Then you get to the point where you're going to say, okay, here is the crisis coming out of it, but we had a climactic ending. We pulled this off, and we now have the solution. And when you resolve it by letting the people know that they too now can also have this solution. Pretty simple spine, pretty simple story structure. It's something worth practicing. Now, just for a little bit of entertainment value, Matthew also gave an example of what he worked on with Finding Nemo using this exact same story structure. And if you've seen it, this will make sense to you. But I'm going to read this part to you from his book. And again, here's his book if you want to get it. The Best Story Wins. Okay, here we go. Once upon a time, a fish called Marlin lost his wife and all but one of his children to a barracuda attack. Marlin vowed that he would never again let anything happen to his only remaining son, Nemo, who had survived the attack but was left with a damaged fin. And every day, Marlin would protect Nemo from the dangers of the ocean. But Marlin was overprotective and held Nemo back from having fun, and even from going to school because of his damaged fin. Until one day, Nemo swam to the surface and was captured by scuba divers. Okay, so this is where his life totally changes. This is that inciting incident. So now we're moving into Act 2. And because of that, Marlin went in search of the scuba diver's boat. He met a forgetful fish named Dory, who knew the scuba diver's address. And because of that, they swam to Sydney to find Nemo. On their journey, they faced sharks, jellyfish, and other dangers of the ocean. And because of that, Dory was injured and Marlin had to rescue her. Okay, lots of complications, right? Now we have to pitch it up to that crisis moment and then climactic solution, followed by the resolution. So here goes. Until finally they found Nemo. But it was too late. He was dead. Marlin was crushed, and he and Dory went their separate ways. But Nemo wasn't actually dead. He had faked his death to escape. Nemo went in search of his dad and met Dory. When Nemo and Dory found Marlin, the 3 fish were caught in a net with hundreds of others. But Nemo knew how to escape. Marlin had to trust his son, and when he did, all the fish were set free. There's the climax, the resolution. And since that day, Marlin let his son live life to its fullest, even though the ocean is a dangerous place. So you can see how the same story structure not only works for business, but it works for telling great entertainment pieces too. And that is why it works for business. The entertainment factor is a huge factor. And when we're talking about entertainment, we're talking about the thing that opens our mind to consider new information. That's right. We're going to open our mind to consider new information. That is where you want your customer to be. You want them to consider the fact that you might have a new solution to their age-old problem that they haven't been able to solve. There is where there is success. You can close more deals because they now know that you are a normal person because of the beginning structure. You had to overcome all kinds of odds, which they know they're about to face, or they are currently facing, and you found the solution that got you through, which means the solution you're recommending to them is probably the one they need. Can't get it any better than that. So, until next time, practice writing a new story for your business. And if you need help, contact me. You can find me at cj@powers.com, and I will be happy to answer any questions for you. Have a great day. Whoops, where's the button? Bye-bye.